What's up, guys? How you guys doing? Good, sort of. So it's Monday, beginning of the week. Probably had a good weekend, didn't you? I can see it on your faces. I can see it. Well, Dan invited me here, and I'm always like keen to come and chat to people about video games. I love video games. I'm assuming you guys also like video games, right? And I always wanted to make video games. I have the pleasure these days to work on video games full time. And it's kind of been a long journey getting up to this point. But I'm glad to come and chat to you guys more about it, especially here in South Africa when the industry is pretty small. So as much as I'm happy to be here, I'm also looking at maybe potential people I'm going to be working with, you know? So the fact that you guys showed up, you're already winning. You guys are already winning. But anyway, let me start. Cukia. Let me just move the mouse. I'm Cukia. Probably looking at that name, trying to figure out how do you even get to that pronunciation. It's a tough one, I know. Don't worry. I've got you covered. So you start with a shu, kya, shu, kya. There we go. Cukia. Even if it's still a bit too tough for you, you can always call me Sugar. That's what everyone calls me. It's pretty funny. I actually sign business emails like your boy Sugar. You know, it's a bit ridiculous. Maybe that's why I don't get replies. But so I was born in Nairobi, Kenya, and I've had the pleasure of living in a few other African countries growing up before I ended up in beautiful South Africa. And when I was 7 years old, my parents bought me a PlayStation. This thing landed in my lap. I was the first kid in my school to even get one. So it was on my birthday. I'm playing these games. And I was blown away. I was just awestruck. And I was like, I want to do this. Like, I want to make video games. I don't know how I'm going to get there, but I want to make video games. I want to tell these stories that these creators have given to me. I want to take people on adventures, save the queens, save the kings, save the whole world. You know, I wanted to give those moments to different people around the world. But at the time where I was in East Africa somewhere. And there was no one making video games. There was no YouTubes you could just throw on and say, how do you make video games? So I was just kind of left stranded. So I just went through school trying to figure out how am I going to get to this video game thing? You know, how am I going to become one of those wizards that give joy to so many people? And somewhere along the line, as I moved to South Africa, someone told me, you need to learn how to program. That's how you're going to get into video games. You know, get on your computer, learn how to program. And I was like, all right, cool. I was in South Africa. They offered IT. It was high school. I was like, cool, let me get to it. My teacher at the time was like, it wasn't a whiteboard. This is even how I was being taught programming that time. It wasn't even that long time ago. But she starts writing public static void main open brackets. And it's like, kids, you're going to have to remember all of this word for word. I was like, oh, no. My dreams are done right now. They're done. I'm gonna have to remember this thing. I don't even it's not even a sentence. But I kind of struggled through it at the time. When I first started, I even saw my marks the other day. It was like I was failing the course, but I was like, I'm gonna make video games. And everyone told me that I had to learn how to program. So that's what I did. I went through it, managed to pass, did pretty well, and then I went to university. Still not making games, but I know how to program. So I was like, okay, cool. I'm going to do computer science. Started doing maths, heavy stuff. You're there at VITS. You're going through year after year. You're not even seeing graphical user interface for the code that you're writing. But I'm like, I was told this is what I'm going to do. So I kept doing it. And on my third and final year at that time, I was like, oh man, I'm not making video games. I'm about to graduate. The prospects I have right now is to go work in a bank. I'm like, I don't want to make ATM software for the rest of my life. I was like, okay, great, whatever. YouTube, let's do this. I'm going to start making video games. And so like for about 2-3 days, I worked trying to stitch the C++ engine and some graphics and trying to make some video game. And I got this block moving. It doesn't look like much, but to me this was everything. I could see the light at the end of this dark tunnel. I'm like, I'm gonna start making video games. I was hooked. I was ready. Let's start doing it. And so I think my game dev, like for me, my learning begun. And it was year one, first year. You're fresh on the scene. You got all these busting ideas. You know, you want to make this. You want to make, imagine the Call of Duty of South Africa. You know, all those big ideas that you have going on. I'm like, okay, I got this. But what I did, and at that time I was working full-time as app developer at Microsoft. It was not as exciting as it sounds. So I'd go home and start making video games. I started to make all the games. Any game that I could try and make, I was going to make them. And the way I went about doing this was going to a lot of game jams and starting to meet people in the industry. And just like, I was like, I'm just going to keep making games. And so that year, I managed to make a bunch of small little games, going to different game jams. I think I made about like 20-ish games over the course of the year. I learned Unity and how to use it. I was like, great. Now I know how to make some video games. And then this game here, specifically, Alien Lobotomy. We got stuck on it with a friend of mine. It was a puzzle game. And had the crazy idea. I was like, you know what? Let's like make it for real. Let's make this thing for real. So we ended working on this game for a lot longer than we thought. And that whole year we went on it, we even started a company. I was like, yeah, man, cool. I'm making video games. I'm going to make the next mobile puzzle hit. That's going to be me and Kevin. But towards the end of the year, I started to realize, you know, the realities dawned on us. Is that, you know, you're still at home. You know, like, okay, what are you going to do? Are we really going to start making money of this? So we kind of just said, you know what, we're going to go a separate path now. And kind of, we'll get back to this thing. And, you know, so I was like, okay, cool, great. I know how to make video games. You can give me a design document. Pretty sure I could put the code together and make the games. But what I felt that I was lacking at the time was I didn't really know how to design games. So it was year two. I didn't really know how to design games. And that's kind of what my focus on was here. I was like, what's like player motivation, you know, player emotions? Like, how do you get people to come back and keep playing the same game over and over and over again? You know, Candy Crush, what are mechanics? You know, I know jumping Mario, you get one guy from one block to the next, there's driving sims, but like, what are those things that make one driving sim better than the other? What makes open world games fun when you don't have an exact goal in mind? You know, I really wanted to find out what is designing games. So I decided, let me go back to school. You know, but this time I was smart. So I was not going to go into a maths course. I'm not going to go into computer science. I'm going to go into the arts. You know, chill with the cool people. And I'm like, I have a degree. I have one of these backup degrees, so it doesn't really matter. So I'm going to go there. And for the first time, I couldn't really understand what was going on. I was like, because I came from a maths background, I was like, you know, it's very easy to get 100%. You ace every question you get right, you get 100%. When you get to the arts, I used to ask my lecturers, so how do I get 100%? They're like, you can't get 100%. But I was like, why? I want to get 100%. No, you just write an essay and explain stuff. I'm like, what do I explain? I want 100%. So, and that kind of like speaks to what design is in video games. There's a lot of hula baloo, for lack of a better word. But it's really getting to what player psychology is and how things are done. And you start to understand, you start looking at games not from a technical aspect from where it come from, but more from a point of like what's design, all the things I was talking about. So I was influenced by Amaze and Super Friendship Arcade. I don't know if any of you know Amaze. You know Amaze? Super Friendship Arcade? Woo! Fresh. I'm gonna blow your mind. So Amaze is an international game festival that was started in Berlin by a crazy man, Thorsten Wiedemann, German. Came to Joburg. It was like, you know what, I like Joburg. It's kind of spunky. It's like Berlin. I'm going to do one here. And so he started this game festival called Amaze, and I went to it on my first year of making games, and I was blown away. I was blown away because these are the guys you're kind of looking on the internet when you watch YouTube videos. Have you guys played Nuclear Throne? You guys know Flambeer? Flambeer Games? Do you know? Anyway, so these are a lot of indie developers. They come over here and you get in to interact with them. But they're making all these weird games that I had never been thinking about. Because I just always thought about FIFA or Candy Crush or all these other games that were making money, because that was kind of where we were at. Like, that's kind of what I was exposed to. I was only exposed to console games. I didn't even know about Steam at the time, honestly. So here they come, these creators from overseas, and they're making all these weird games, like games that couldn't be commercial or make money, but they're now expressing what the games medium can be, what it could, what it can tell, what activism can happen. So all these weird games on the fringes. So when I was stepping into design, I went all the way, went full in there. And people were making all these games that were super fun. You probably wouldn't be able to make a buck on Steam, but they were fun, and people were coming from overseas to Joburg to play them, to talk about them, and this was fun and exciting. And Super Friendship Arcade kind of stole or borrowed the kind of ethos of Amaze, and it's a party that started in Cape Town. There's one that happens in Joburg, but they do the same thing. They have all these weird games with controllers where you drink beer to control the character, things like that. So things are always weird, and it's held in a party. So it's like a party, probably one of the parties you guys went to this weekend. But this one's a bit weird because there's games everywhere. So you go grab a beer, go play a game with your friend, but there are all these weird games that you don't really play otherwise unless you go to these festivals. So I was really inspired by things like that. And I was like, I want to make a game that can be showcased on one of these events, that's fun, that's just easy to play. And I started working on Boxer. So Boxer started as, you guys know controllers, the analog sticks, right? So I was playing around with the analog sticks, and I was like, man, these things feel pretty cool, you know? Why don't I try and make a game with just analog sticks? And I was like, okay, what can I make? And I started thinking about, like, what if you could just control the arms? And that's all you do in Boxer. It's top-down boxing game. And this was still while I was at WITS. And then I got a friend to join me who joined me on art. So I took this weird boxy game and turned it into this. So this was now, I started having a lot of fun with this game, and it was great working on it. And then, here we go. They asked me if they could put it at Super Friendship Arcade in Cape Town. So flew down to Cape Town, got to show my game to a bunch of people. And this for me was a lot more than the small, tiny games I was doing in my first year. Because these are just, you throw them online and you kind of hope people like it. Some comments are mean, some are nice. But this time you're there and you're seeing people play the game. And I was totally blown away this time. And because we put up the laptop, that's actually the game being played there, and people are crowding around the game. Like, people are playing it constantly. I remember being at one part of the party, and this girl runs up to her boyfriend, and she's like, hey, you need to come play this video game. It's super cool. It's this boxing game. You just, like, use the analog sticks. And this was, like, it was crazy. It was mind-blowing because of all the games I was there, it was my game, our game was the last one to be pulled down at the end of the night because people kept playing it. And you're like, this is why I wanted to start making games. Start making those adventures, those things that are exciting. And after working on a puzzle game that barely anyone understood what was going on, nothing. And you come to this game that's super accessible, and I was starting to feel like now I know how to design games. I started thinking more about the player than the tech. And I always said I wanted to make a game that was easy enough for my mom to play. So this was a game because it was just analog sticks, and it's so intuitive to just kind of punch people with it. So we started making it. And then Amaze was like, yeah, cool, man. Do you want to throw it on our exhibition here in Joburg? I was like, yeah, no worries. Again, as usual, people digged it. They digged it so much, they decided to give us an award. So we won the inaugural Amaze Johannesburg Award for the game Boxer. And this was great. This was This was like, okay, I was like, year one, I know how to make video games. Year two, I've kind of learned how to design video games. And I got to take it all over the world. That's in the Netherlands. This was in Joburg. That was in Chicago. That was also in Berlin. So I got to even travel the world just because I made this silly boxing game. So I'm not really making money, but it was like, whatever, it's fun. And so we started keep learning. There's a more of the festivals it went to. But the year was ending, and this was at WITS. So we were graduating WITS also. And so it was year three. So year three was more about, let's try make some money, okay? So I know how to code some video games. I know how to design a game. I won an award. I've traveled a bit. I know some people. So why don't I try make like a career about it? But I didn't want to go work for anyone. So I tried to do that at Microsoft. It wasn't ideal. Not that it was bad. It just wasn't ideal for me. And so serendipitously, while I was at WITS, I met another friend of mine, and we showed this game, kind of looked like this at the time. And the premise for the game was that, what if you had a character that you could like kind of squash and change, and you could get through different places and would build puzzles around it? And let's try and make this game. And at the time we got lucky, some guy who used to work at Naughty Dog, making Uncharted, The Last of Us, he was probably one of the first people you see in the credits when it comes. He lives in South Africa, he's in Joburg. He was our external examiner at the time, and he was like, hey, why don't you guys make this thing for real? So we were like, okay, we've got this big guy, America, Naughty Dog, PlayStation. That's all we need. Let's go ahead. Let's go make money. Mom, I'm not gonna get a job staying at home. Yes, you're still gonna pay for my food. I'm gonna make video games. She was like, all right, Mom, I love my mom. She was great. She's like, yeah, sweet, go ahead, do it. So we started out, no idea what we were doing. We were just these two kids bang on keyboards. We're like, we're gonna make a video game. That's what we're gonna do, and we're gonna make some money. And so I was like, okay, cool. At least I had someone to work with. This dude, Ben. He was gonna be the designer. I was gonna write the programming for the game, and then we'll kind of figure it out. And at the time, this is kind of like the way this game thing works. Is that you get people together. You have no clue what you're doing. You get your friend involved. Probably you tell his mom's like, yeah, so I'm gonna make a video game with this other guy. He also wants to make a video game. We're gonna stay at home. This is the place where your parents are like, are you sure this is a good friend you should be having? Maybe you should go look for a job. But again, they were cool. They were like, cool. You guys have an idea. Go for it. Go shoot for the stars. And I think just like any of you here, you've got ideas. You've got people you want to work with. And it's like you just pick an idea and you start. And we were like, this is what we want to do. Let's figure out where we're going to go. And the game started to evolve. And we started to figure out like, well, if the player can change, why doesn't the world change too? Let's figure out how that will work. So we started iterating, and you keep iterating on your designs. You keep iterating on your designs. So we know how to design video games. Let's try different things. What if the platform automatically shoots you up? What if the platform stays in its same place? And so you keep changing the idea, and you build it. You think of the idea, but you go out and you build it. You don't make excuses, so you're going to do it over the weekend. You just start, and you start building it. And inch by inch, you'll get there. And the game kept evolving. It started getting juicier, The art was getting better. And just like we were learning, as everything you are, you're always in a process of learning. You always want to be flexible. Don't be too rigid to your ideas. Everything can change. Anything can change at any time. And that's what you want to be when you're making a game. Because as a game, you have an original idea. Like we started, it was like, oh, it's just about this character changing shape. They're like, oh, what about the world changing shape? Oh, so what art style do we use? You got to keep being flexible and let the ideas come as you keep iterating. But you got to keep building it. So stay flexible. Just stay flexible. You never know what's going to come up. And so we started to even change the art style. Like, okay, let's explore the art. Like, where can we go with that? and what are the different things you can, what is the story of the game, what is the different characters, why is our character able to change, and we kept evolving, making the tech better. As you can see, it started off you couldn't even, and then you started sliding through it. So that was the kind of the process we went to. But you're gonna make mistakes, and while we were making these mistakes, it was more of not the design side, but the business side, because we didn't know how to do that. We were like, okay, cool, we can design games, we can write programs, we can get art for it, cool. But the business side was where things started getting weird. But you're gonna make mistakes, and it's okay to make those mistakes. We passed on deals and we should have taken. We didn't write contracts, we lost people. But it was all a learning process to get us to where we are now. And you shouldn't be afraid to make those mistakes, especially when you're in school and you're in an environment that, hey, look, if you make a mistake, you're not gonna go hungry. You know, just, you might get a bad mark, Dan. Just be nice to them, though. Be nice to them. You know, you might get, but you gotta make those mistakes, because that's how you learn from the mistakes. And read everything. I think you're in a perfect place to be. It's like when I was in my year 3, I didn't have teachers at this point. We were just kind of 2 kids figuring out. We sat on Twitter, Gama Sutra, all the articles we could get, tutorials. So as much as you're learning a lot in school right now, go home, do more. Like, read everything. Read about the business about games. Read about what people did in the 60s with video games. Read about what people are trying to do 50 years from now. Like, we were trying to read everything and know about a lot of stuff, and that really helped us when we started traveling and showing the game, because we were not just like making a game, we were trying to make a game and also try and make some money, make a career out of it. So you got to learn about all those different aspects. Don't forget about them. And that's how we ended up building Yamakop, game development studio based in Johannesburg, South Africa. It took us a while, but it's been fun. But now it's year 4, right? What's the aim now? It's graduation, you know? Will we make that money? I don't know. We're actually launching that game Semblance tomorrow, okay? So I should get back and start finishing some things. But this was us this was me year 3, this was us year 4. It's like stark difference. We managed to get ourselves a publisher and start to make video games. We're actually going to be coming out on Nintendo Switch as well. We'll be the first African IP on Nintendo ever. Challenge. And the first time we ever showed it on the Switch was actually in Kyoto, Japan this year. And we won the award for excellence in game design. So everything starts somewhere, you know. You gotta keep building. It's gonna take time. You know, you're just fresh, but just keep working at it. Keep having goals in check. Keep making sure you're working with different people, because collaborating is everything. People right here are the people you're probably going to start companies with, or probably going to go and work and head up the new studio or something like that. So don't disregard anything. And so this is kind of the key art we have for Semblance. But I'm going to give you guys a sneak peek at something. It's our launch trailer. I'm really proud about it. But yeah, so we've got into year 4. We're gonna try to see I'll let you know. You should probably give me a follow-up, see what happens. And so we built the game. Took us a while. Started like 2015. But it's been slow steps of till we got to this point. And it was always a continuous journey, because I think even as we've gotten to this point where I'm calling graduation, there's still so many things to learn. Up until this point, I've only really made 2D games, so I'm excited to try what's up in 3D, what's up with multiplayer. I heard Battle Royale is a thing now, so maybe I should try that. And we're in this space here in South Africa that's called the indie space. So it's like we're not going to be competing with EA or Blizzard, things like that. We're small companies making passionate things with a small group of people. But if you know anything about indie, people are talking about the indie apocalypse. You know, and what the indie apocalypse is that indie games in 2015, there were 2,000 of them. While now there's 13,000 video games that were made in 2018 so far. So it's growing rapidly. There's a lot of competition out there. And I think with games it's becoming easier and easier to put games on Steam. That was when Greenlight and then Direct. These are games per month. There's a lot of competition out there. And people will be like, no, this is not a career you should get into. And I'm like, this is probably the best career you want to get into. I mean, like, this might be a lot of competition, but there's so much new cool stuff that's being made. There's VR, Oculus and Vive are trying some new stuff. There's mixed reality. There's the Microsoft HoloLens, and there's the Magic Leap by different company. There's so many different exciting things. Mobile is still a thing. There's consoles. And the thing is that the skills that you're also learning right now are like, they can be transferred into many things. Game design is not necessarily you're going to be making an entertainment game. You can be making an educational game. Or you can use your game design tricks and knowledge to make better banking apps. So maybe I might go do banking if this thing doesn't work out, right? And then there's like so many things that you got to look at your game development career. You mean you're learning about 3D as well. You can go start innovating. I don't know if you guys have seen what Neil Blomkamp is doing with Unity. You've seen it, right? So it's like you can be making movies with Neil Blomkamp with Unity. So I mean, like, it's a game design course. I'm doing game design, but you're always looking at all the skills that you're learning, and that's why it's always a continual process of learning. So once you graduate here, there's going to be new tech. Unity might not be the thing. Unreal might not be the thing. It might be the stuff you guys build. So all I'm going to say is, man, keep learning on the fly, keep hungry. Thanks. But yeah, so I left a bit of time towards the end, so if anyone has any questions.
What's the story behind the name for the game that you just made,
Semblance?
Yes. How did you come up with that name? What's the story behind it?
I didn't even come up with that name, to be honest. But it was Ben, the designer. He was basically, what he said was that we have platformers, right? And you kind of know what a platformer is. You have a semblance of an idea, but we're about to change it. We're about to change the world. That's kind of where the name came from. Any more questions?
Maybe. How did you guys came up with the name Nyamakop?
Nyamakop. I think we argued a lot. That was probably one of our first big fights. But I think someone just said it randomly. I don't even know how. But we really liked it because, so I'm from Kenya, and so nyama in Swahili means meat, and kop obviously means head. So it's a really great thing for press overseas. They're like, what's that name? I was like, how are you doing this? And you explain it to them. So it's kind of just how that came about.
You know, getting to where you got to today, what is like the one piece of advice you could give these guys to, like, just, you know, to...
One piece.
Well, or several pieces.
How many words? I'm checking. Wow. I'd say just start. Just start. Start like right now. Well, not right now, but like after the talk or anything. But just start. I think especially when you're in a place like for us, what was really key was that we had like very supportive parents who were like, yeah, you can still stay at home and we'll feed you. Just go do your thing. And so when you're especially when you're in an environment that you're still, there's no big risks, right? You're not going to be able to feed yourself. Just start, you know. And the thing is with games, like I was saying, it's like you just keep building up on it. Like you keep getting better. And so the earlier you start, by the time you're graduating, you might have done like 10 games that made zero money, but like you know how to make 10 games. And for us, one of the struggles we had when we were looking for a publisher, there was like, but you guys just came out. What have you guys done? Like, oh, we've made some game jam games. They're like, yeah, but have you ever like gotten a game and shipped it? Like, that's a completely different process. So if you start getting into the thing, and then you don't have to try and make something big. I would also say, don't try and make something big when you're starting. Make something small enough, and then just get into a cycle of, you know, we start, we have a goal, we finish, keep the scope small, and then you get into that cycle. So it's just start. And anything we did wrong, I don't like to think of it what we did wrong. In hindsight, it was like, oh, maybe we should have. Like, for example, we actually had a publisher deal at the beginning of last year, and we said no to it. And the reason we said no to it was that we were like, no, we still really want to ship in June last year. We're like, no, we're going to make it in June, and you guys want to make us do a bigger game. And then towards the end of last year, we were kind of running out of money, and we didn't finish the game. So it's kind of, that was the one mistake. We were like, oh man, we should have taken that. But even though those publishers wouldn't have been as good as the ones we found now. So it's like, it's one of those things where you make the best decision that you have at the time. So I would say just start and always ask for advice, always ask for help. Like slide into my DMs, you know, like ask for something, because we kept asking for help from different people that we met. Like if we didn't know about like how should we do the music, we asked some people who've done music before. And you find out that on Twitter, people are way helpful, like so helpful for like different things you want to do with tech. Some people would spend time and just jump on a Skype call with us just to give us help. So it's like, just always ask for help. Don't be stuck somewhere on your own. So just start and always ask. They have a saying in Swahili, it says, kuuliza si ujinga. What that means is, to ask is not stupid. So go ahead. It's a very tough, that's a tough one, especially here in South Africa. We got lucky for the game when we first started, is that we found what's called like an angel investor who had seen the game when we took it to EGE. And now this person had vision. And they kind of gave us money. We're like, okay, cool, we'll give you a little bit of money, you try make the game. So that's kind of how we got our funding. And then the main thing to do right now in the indie space is to make a good enough like vertical slice or demo and just pitch it to international publishers. And the thing is that those publishers are all, again, are all on Twitter, and they're all looking for games. And what works to our favor here, especially working in South Africa, we have all these downsides, we don't have a big skill base, is that we're like significantly cheaper than the guys like who are trying to make a game in Sweden. So is that you have that competitive advantage. So I'd say like, that's what I was saying, it's like start now, and you can build something really cool, especially if like you're a small team, build something really tight and looks really good. Like the game, that the demo we got to show was about 15 minutes okay, actually let me just tell this story. So you want to get it from a international publisher. That's probably the easiest way, but it's still very hard unless you find someone in South Africa willing to give you money. And so the first time we went to publishers, the game didn't look that good, but we had a lot more content. We had maybe like an hour worth of puzzles, and which are still in the game now. And they all said no. They all said no. And then we came back like maybe 6 months later with a game that was 15 minutes long, but looked phenomenal. And they were like, oh, so what's up? How you doing? Can we chat again? You know, but it's a process of, if you can make something really tight and polished and you pitch. Like, so if they say no, just say thanks for the and then ask for feedback, because then they'll be like, okay, this is kind of what we would want. and then pitch again, and then pitch again. So it's like you want to start pitching as soon as possible, get feedback and pitches as like, well, not like every day, but just try and don't say, like, just make sure you keep going back, because that was the way we landed our publisher, because we pitched them in, I think, May, then they saw the game again in June, and then when we eventually signed with them was like in October. So it takes a bit of time. That's like the more straightforward way to do it. We were actually lucky as well to be part of the Maxim incubation hub that's in Johannesburg. I wouldn't say it's the best incubation hub, but they give you equipment, there's a space to work, and there's also access to funding. And you guys know the innovation hub. It's here in Pretoria. It's near Menlyn. Yeah, so they have a grant that you can access, and so you need to put together proposals for that, have the game ready, and then we got a bit of our funding through that. So you can do that. And if you guys need help with that, because it's like government people. It's very complicated things. Slide into the DMs. You had a question. So when we first started the game, when the game was still about changing shape, we were really struggling. The designer, Ben, he was really struggling to find content that was like novel. And so we kept working at it. And the idea for the game was like, we're just going to make a game for like 6 months. And whatever it is, we're just going to ship. And then put it on like a simple store that's called SPOTLiGHT.io. And we'll use it as a learning process. So for us, we always had this thing where we knew we could kill it at any moment, but we had to have a finished product. But then somewhere along the line, the mechanic that we have now was actually a bug that happened. So the game started was like you hit on sides and you get smaller and get smaller. Then I started making a soft surface, so it would have to like dent in wherever you would be. So every time you'd keep hitting it, I didn't change something, it would get bigger and bigger and bigger. And then I threw it on Twitter, and I was like, hey man, this is pretty funny. And then Ben in my DMs was like, that's our mechanic, make it happen. So I would say that what kept us going was that we knew we would have ourselves a finish line if the game was not good. And that's also pretty important, to learn how to kill they call them killing your babies. So if like you're just not getting something fun, we knew we had like a timeline for when we would call it. And then once we got over and we found this interesting mechanic, what kept us going, because I mean things got hard, we ran out of money and things like that, was just that we felt we had a really cool game, and I guess we were a bit stubborn with the idea. But again, we also still had an end point. When we were running out of money, we were still like trying to get this deal with the publisher. And in our head was like, if the publisher doesn't come, we had an idea of like, we're just gonna pull everything together and just ship it in the next month. Because again, for us, the game had a goal. It was mainly for us to learn how to ship a game. Because we had made a lot of games, but getting to the point where you ship it, promote it, that was kind of the whole learning process. In fact, when we started, we didn't really think we were gonna make money. It was just like a learning process. So I think the easiest way to keep going with certain things is to have clear goals of what it is meant to be. Like, if this game is, I just really want to learn how to do 3D art, then you focus on that and have like a goal, like your finish line, and say that's where you're going. So when it gets hard, you're like, I'm getting here, and once it's here, it's done. And if the game for us is that we got to a point where we're like, okay, cool, let's see if we can make money. So we started making decisions on how that's going to be possible. So we actually cut out a whole chunk of the game because we're like, the scope's going to be too much, and we won't be able to be within our budget and be able to be profitable. So it's all about setting your goals and trying to reach them as best as you can. But also don't feel bad if you don't reach them. Yeah, so that's how we started. That's actually why we turned down the publishing deal at the time. Because we had the investor, and he was just like, here's some money, go do it. Was always our goal. But then when things got a bit challenging towards the end, that's when we jumped on with a publisher. And I think in hindsight, it was a great like a great decision because, again, like I was saying, that this game was a lot about learning. So it's that when we went to the publisher, we learned a lot more things about marketing that we didn't even think about while we're doing it. We weren't doing a bad job up until the time, because up until that time, we had gone into Gamescom, we had shown it in all over the places, and that's why the publisher was like, okay, cool, let's work with you. So self-publishing is definitely a position to be in. It's just that it's always where you're going to get the money and the funding. And so one of the big things we were lucky during development was that we were able to travel a lot. So we got scholarships to go to like GDC, and then there was like a trade mission that got us to Gamescom. So we try to leverage all of those to like meet platform holders, because that's a big thing when you're trying to market, is that you want to meet the people who are like handling the storefronts. So for us, like on Nintendo, we found the guy and we pitched him like on the side of the road. And then that's kind of, so that was your first point of contact. And then while we were making the first trailer, we had gotten them to put it on their YouTube channel, things like that. So self-publishing is not out of the question. It's just a lot more work. And you have to be sure that you want to do that part, because a lot of us just want to make the video game. But once you get into the side of like, I want to publish a game, you have to market, you have to talk to a lot of people. There's a whole different like aspect of it. Like right now, Ben, he handles a lot of our marketing. He's been like, for the past 2 weeks, he's like been managing our press, sending review codes, managing like testing if when people ask you for a review code, that's really the person that is asking you for the review code. So there's a whole different aspect of the business that you have to account for. And it's not, I mean, like, it's, yes, you can just throw your game on Steam, but if you want to be successful, you have to take that into consideration. We used Unity, and for our music and sound, we used Fmod, the middleware library. That was really good. But you could use anything, I guess, as long as the game comes out.
And then art, assets, Photoshop.
Oh, for art, I assume our artist, he was using Photoshop. We were not the ones who did the art. So Ben and myself, I'm the programmer. Ben is the designer, does the levels. We have Jean Roux in East London. He was doing all the art assets for the game. And then we had a sound studio in Cape Town who worked with us together to make the music.
Did you use a GitHub setup?
Yeah. That personally was my biggest fail on the project. I think we lost like a week worth. We didn't lose any work, but we had downtime because we're all remote. So the server like broke down because the project got too big from Bitbucket, so we had to move it to GitHub. And then sometimes the sound guys couldn't like log in. It was a nightmare. But yes, I definitely know what I'll do differently in the next game. But that was the best way to do it, because even that way, we were able to roll back when we made some epic mistakes. You can track the project. In fact, you know how to use source tree and stuff. So we had a demo branch and like the game branch. So every time we needed to do a demo, we didn't have to like drastically change the game. We would just ship and like move all the updated stuff. So like you're always being able to manage the project a lot better. Yeah.
Okay.
What other tools did we use? No, that was pretty much it.
All right.
Awesome.
Well, I'd just like to thank Cukia so much.
Thanks. Thanks for having me.
So much for coming through and inspiring these guys. And
I hope I
inspiring me,
inspired.
and I hope